So I'm going to get started. Again, thank you guys for joining me. I'm glad to see so many members here. One of the strange parts about this pandemic is that even the people that I normally see like all the time, I don't see as often right now. And so this is how we talk now. Some of you are actually at the space in different areas of the Makerspace, listening in right now. But for those at home and at work, thanks for joining us. I'm gonna talk for maybe 25, 30 minutes and then definitely leave time, 15 or 20 minutes for questions. And so I won't take too much of your time this morning, but I did want to let you guys know what we're doing here at Makerspace. And so we will get started. I'm gonna start with a sort of recap of 2020 as it looks from Makerspace. It feels like we spent, like when I think back on 2020, it's going to be these face shields that we made for several months in the middle of the year. But we actually did a lot of other things too. It was a difficult year, but there were some bright spots and we were able to do some things that I'm proud of. And so I definitely will go through some things that were not, it wasn't all face shields and PPE production, but that was definitely a part of it. So we actually started 2020 with an expansion. We, in January 1, our lease expanded to include the former convenience store next door. So we took that 4,000 square feet and about half of it is now the wood shop. So you can see the before down in that corner and then the one half of the wood shop. So we have a lot more space for woodworking, which is great, and other things in the space got to move around. But of course, one of the things we were anticipating this year was a lot of growth. And that is what was, a catalyst for why we expanded the space, which proved to be a little bit challenging later in the year, but we do have this beautiful wood shop now with plenty of space. And the other aspect of the expansion was private studios that we built out sort of behind the wood shop. That area, there's still unfinished area behind the wood shop. So we have 3 private studios or offices that are rented out to members who use that for running their business or storing extra tools, things like that. But we have plans for the rest of that space too. So there's probably 2,000 square feet that's just storage and being unused right now, that in the future we will sort of look to continue building that out. So in January, we did have 2 programs going on in person. We had the Now Machinist program, so it's the non-traditional occupations for women, and it was 5 low-income women that were trained in as machinists. So they were using a mill and a lathe, and we were able to wrap up that training right in early March. So the timing worked out really well for them to finish that program. Employment afterwards was a struggle because of 2020 and everything that happened with manufacturing and with supply chain right afterwards. But we were able to get those women through the program, which we were really pleased with. Our rocketry students, their schedule did not line up so well. They had built their rockets, tested their rockets. They were ready to do their final launches for the competition. And then we got shut down. So we will revisit rocketry in 2021. But for now, they made great progress, and then we had to stop that program in mid-March. So that brings us to PPE production, which started really in early April. Part of our network with makerspaces around the country is that we can see what's going on in other cities and around the world. We work with Maker Faire producers around the world and Makerspace operators around the country. And so we knew that face shield production was something that other makerspaces were being called on to do. And so by the time we got a phone call here in Lynchburg, we were already studying up on designs and how to make these, and then we're able to pull together 10 different community partners to produce over 1,000 units of PPE. So that included face shields, the folding intubation boxes that you see in a hospital shot there. That design was one that was, there was a photo of it on the internet, but no design plans to make it. So what we ended up doing is writing the plans to make this folding intubation box, which was in high demand for anesthesiologists, and then sharing that to GitHub so that other makers around the country could also reproduce those with the specs and measurements and materials and everything already laid out. So we were able to contribute locally, but also around the country and around the world with some of our designs. The face shields that you see in these first photos were 3D printed, and that's where we started, and we had a lot of community support and help with that. But even with, I think we had close to 20 3D printers running, it's a really slow process. So we ended up streamlining to CNC routing the visor piece instead, and we were able to produce them at about, the 3D prints were taking 2 hours per visor, and with the CNC router, we were able to, in the same amount of time, in 2 hours, cut about 18 visors. So it was much quicker and more efficient to get those out to community partners. We had them out to healthcare workers and small business owners and schools, school nurses. And so that was a way that we were really able to contribute in the spring while our facilities were closed, while we weren't offering other programming, and kept our space operating and our staff busy, and also made a significant impact in the community before manufacturing could catch up with that demand. After manufacturing did catch up and face shields were available and face masks were available in other places, we sort of reevaluated, and it clearly wasn't time to do anything in person yet. But we still wanted to give back to the community, and we still wanted to stay relevant. And so we turned to a program that we've done in person before, which is a repair cafe. And typically what that looks like is folks bringing in something that's broken, household items, and working with some of our makers to fix it. So it's educational. It's not just to drop it off and leave it typically. It's a work with a maker to see what's wrong and how we can fix it. But to make that virtual and to still impact our community, during this time, we did have a drop-off situation where folks would bring us broken items, and then we would record the repair, and then we're able to share that online. So repair is something that we believe strongly in. It keeps things out of landfills. It empowers makers and people to be able to fix things and have some autonomy over the things that we own. And also we did this as a free service to the community at a time when finances were up in the air for lots of folks. So buying a new replacement item was not always as a straightforward matter like it was, or like it sometimes could be. So we did several episodes of Repair Cafe, and that was well received and was just something that we were able to help the community with. So in August, we were able to get back to in-person programming. We started with a student project. So one of the things that's sort of fortunate about the way that we've always worked is that we always work in small numbers. And so we have 6 soccer students and 1 instructor. So a total of 7 people working together, wearing face masks, keeping as much distance as they can, sanitizing tools, and making some really cool and awesome things. So the bottom picture is students getting their laser cut hexagons and pentagons, their leather laser cut pieces to hand sew soccer balls. So the middle picture is a soccer ball that's actually inside out. So they hand stitch it and then flip it. And this was a collaboration, again, at a time when so many things are virtual and we're communicating via computer and via internet anyway. We took this opportunity to partner with a group in South Africa. So we had students outside of Johannesburg working with our students here in Lynchburg, and they are doing a jersey swap where they're designing jerseys for each other and sending them across the ocean. And then also our students are sending their soccer balls, the soccer pumps that they designed and built, and the prototype and technical drawings for a soccer goal to students in South Africa. So that has been really successful. It has really been great for us as an organization to still be able to serve our mission of education and hands-on learning. I know that these kids, when they first got here, were so grateful to have something in person to be able to do. You know, they were like, we'll wear our masks, we'll do whatever you want, just please, you know, let us do this in person, tactile learning. And so it really reinforced how important that is. And so we'll continue to work in small, safe groups. We had a couple, we had one point where we took 2 weeks off from the class because a student's family member had an exposure, but again, we were, you know, it was mitigated and none of the students got sick, and we were able to do that safely. So we are not rushing things. We are working in small groups and have been able to do that successfully. The other thing that we launched in October is workshops. So again, these are groups of sometimes as small as 2 to 5 people with an instructor. And we are doing in person, again, all of the sanitation and cleanliness steps that we need to take are in place. And we have been able to get non-members in to take some workshops and learn some skills. And so that has been successful as well, and we will continue on with that. So that brings us to where we are now. So I want to talk about membership. So membership, we currently have 130 some members, and we have been able to open membership up for enrollment twice since March. So we did that once in July and once again in September. It looks different than it did previously. Everything is smaller groups and it takes a little bit more time. I know that for new members, it's taking a little bit more time for them to feel acclimated and like they are sort of trained and prepared to use the space because we don't have the usual engagement going on. Our membership committee is here one person at a time to help with folks. And I really appreciate them being able to step up and do that. But it's still taking a while for members to really get trained on all the tools that they want to use, for new members at least. And then we also obviously have lots of members who are not comfortable coming in and using a shared space right now. So we have members that are staying home or have suspended their memberships until it's safe and until they feel comfortable coming back in. So we have probably 10 to 15 members who are suspended currently until COVID has some sort of end in sight. Obviously, dip in membership has affected our finances. So this is the usage data for the Makerspace. So this is our entry system. Our key members have a key, and each time they log in, we collect that data. So you can see those 2 red arrows are April and May of this year. And obviously, usage went way down during that time. Once we moved out of phase 1, some folks were able to come back in, and we see a little bit of a jump there, which is probably that first jump is when we onboarded our next group of members in July, and then again in September. But that was our usage was down to lower than it's been in 3 years here at the space, and we have a lot more members. So clearly we've been affected by by COVID. Fortunately, we have been able to raise $37,000 in funding for operations in order to offset the hit that our budget took for 2020. Like I said, we had just expanded, so a lot of our expenses had just gone up in January, and so, but we've been able to find funding for operating, and so the Makerspace is not in peril. We will not have to close our doors as long as we can continue to serve members in small numbers safely and do these educational programs that we have proven we can do. We are going to be fine. It didn't necessarily feel like that where these red arrows were in May and April, but we do know that we are in a decent place heading into 2021, all things considered. Let's see, outreach. Outreach is something that has been really difficult. So typically we open the Makerspace every first Friday for, actually we can go back and look at this picture from February. Oh, where am I? There we go. This February 2019 picture is our first Friday in February, and all of those people so close together without any masks, and it's just a picture that like makes you uncomfortable now, right? But that was what we loved and what we did every month, and clearly we're not going to be back to that for a long time, and that, you know, doesn't feel great. We do love to open our space to new people, for them to, you know, get a tour and learn a new skill and try something and bring the family. So that's something that we're definitely missing. We did try an outdoor First Friday in October, which worked pretty well. The attendance was not huge, which was both good and as we were expecting. But it's still difficult to do as as we get into colder weather and it gets dark earlier now. So that's not something that we can really continue through the winter. But we are planning, we're looking ahead at Maker Faire, which typically happens in March, and we feel pretty confident will not be a time that we can gather in big groups, potentially inside. But we will plan something as a replacement to make sure that we're doing this outreach and that we're getting content and education and keeping people thinking of new ideas and being inspired through our outreach programming. So look for something in March for Maker Faire. We're still sort of fine-tuning what exactly that is, but I have a couple ideas that I'm excited about. So yeah, outreach is definitely something that is not only difficult to do in terms of logistics, but also in terms of capacity and what our staff can do. So our staff is working at reduced capacity because of all of the like childcare and other factors of COVID. And then also everything that we do takes a little bit more effort right now, right? So to just do a regular workshop means cleaning all of the things before and after, and getting everyone set up and making sure that it's safe and the numbers are right. So everything's just taking a little bit more effort, and doing monthly outreach is not something that we could even do virtually in terms of our capacity right now. The picture on the right is a member project. So I think we have 2 members right now building out a conversion van and converting it into a camper. And so that's a fun project. That is one thing that we've seen is members be able to take advantage of their flexibility during this time and work on side projects or like smaller entrepreneurial ventures that they have sort of been thinking about. But now, because their work schedule is flexible or they're working fewer hours, we are seeing more members in the space doing things to make money, doing projects that they couldn't have taken on during a sort of a normal time. So for our members that are comfortable coming in and using the space and are low risk, we're still mandating masks and cleaning things, and it's been great to see them take advantage of this time. And I think we're going to see some cool projects and innovation come out of it in the end. So let's see, looking ahead, education, we will continue to offer our educational programming. That is really fundamental to what we do and to our mission. It is something that needs support. It needs financial support. Typically, we are able to rely on volunteers to come in and speak with our students and be guest speakers. And that is something that we limited for the soccer project because it just means more exposure, right? It means bringing different people in that work at different places, and it's just an extra level of exposure for both the guest speaker and for the students participating. So that's something that we're not able to do as much as we typically do. We have had some guest speakers Zoom in, which is great, and that can be helpful, especially in industries where we really want that perspective and we want students to be able to ask questions of different folks. But education is something that needs your support in order to keep doing, small, intentional, hands-on projects. We're going to have to, it needs funding, it needs Zoom volunteers, all of the above. But we do have some fun projects in mind. If you have teenagers, we are planning potentially go-karts for the spring. That's been requested, I think, for years from our students. So we will get into small engine and welding and all kinds of fun with go-karts. We're also planning an entrepreneurial project for teens. So creating a product line, and then we're also taking advantage of this time to teach students about e-commerce and building an online store. When we've done entrepreneurship in the past, we have done an in-person sales event, and so we will teach them the very valuable and very relevant skill of putting your products online as sort of a pivot for our entrepreneurship programs. So we're planning that for early 2021 as well. And then co-starters, this is a picture from co-starters in 2019 when we were meeting in person. In 2020, we've been meeting virtually. We just had an in-person pitch night for our latest cohort. And if you're not familiar with co-starters, that is a 9-week entrepreneurship program for adults who have a business idea. It's a partnership with Opportunity Lynchburg, and it's a national curriculum that we teach here at Makerspace. So we will have, we'll continue with co-starters probably virtually for a while until we can get back to in-person. And then we're also exploring, co-starters has a teen curriculum. So we're talking about integrating that into our teen entrepreneurship projects as well. Innovation. So I think 2020 taught us that we don't know what we'll need, but that if anyone's prepared to make it happen, it's makerspaces. So we will keep meeting folks where they are and coming up with new ways to do things safely and efficiently and differently. And that is what this sort of hive of people with different backgrounds and all of the tools available, that's what we're great at. And so hopefully we won't have to innovate for pandemic health reasons in the future, but we certainly will keep innovating and keep coming up with new projects and ideas. National reach. So we've been working closely with the Nation of Makers organization, which organizes makerspaces all over the country. We are working at the state level to work with makerspaces in different areas and make sure that they are plugging into all of their resources. So we've been doing some advocacy and some education at the state level. And then we also have several research projects, or not several, but a few research projects that we are hoping to take on in 2021 with some local colleges and college level projects, things like that, that we hope to be able to do to sort of broaden our reach. In 2020, we had plans for a national boarding camp for students, and that was postponed entirely. This year, we are planning to take on summer camps, but not boarding camps. So we'll continue to do local programming, but in terms of national programming at Makerspace, that's probably going to be a 2022 goal at this point. So that is all I have for you guys. I have been talking a lot, and so I'm going to stop sharing and would love to hear from you. Do you guys have questions, comments? Did I leave anything out? We've got board members here. You can unmute yourself or you can put it in the chat.
Elise?
Yes.
I just want to acknowledge the incredible job you and Adam have done in a really difficult year.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate it. And we couldn't do it without you and our other board members. Bob is our board chair. And there have been board meetings where I've come to them this year and just been like, this, what? Can I do this? Should I do that? Am I allowed to do this or not do this? It's definitely been a year of just, trying and seeing what works. And the board has been really supportive and has been there to back us up and to step in when needed. So thank you. Any questions about programs? Or, one thing I didn't mention is that membership will be open again in January. We'll cap the number of new members that we bring in, and all of the training and orientation will happen in small groups. So it will take several weeks to get everyone sort of on board. But if you have folks that are interested in membership, January will be the next opportunity to join.
Hey, Elise, this is Pam Reed. You and
Pam.
I have, how are you doing? You're doing great things. Thanks for sharing all this information with us.
Yeah, thanks
Um,
for joining.
I just wanted to touch base. I know you and I have been exchanging a couple emails. One of the things, I'm on the call kind of representing Women in Nuclear, which is a group that is, the chapter is kind of focused here at Framatome. And we are interested in helping support Vectorspace this year. We had a budget set up to do a whole bunch of stuff this year, and all of that was canceled because of COVID too. And so we're looking to reach out to 2 to 3 different organizations locally to help out. And if that's this year, great. If that's next year, that's great too. We'd like to do both. One of the areas that we were particularly interested in is the teen outreach that you do.
Mhm.
And I think you had mentioned that you have some stuff planned, and you also mentioned co-starters for teens. Could you just tell me a little bit more about those 2 things?
Yeah, absolutely. So the student projects that we have planned for the spring, so they'll probably start in February, are one, go-karts. And so that will be our like definitely hands-on engineering, welding, very technical program. And Adam and another one of our members will be leading that. I think we'll cap that one at 6 students, 6 to 8 students. And it will be at least a 40-hour program. It will meet twice a week. For that project, it will be probably a weeknight and then a weekend afternoon. And so I don't have the full curriculum in front of me, but students will get into, design and engineering principles, and then get lots of hands-on time with actually building and then driving go-karts. So I know that they're excited about that. We are also doing, so you asked about co-starters and entrepreneurship. So co-starters has a track called Generator, which is curriculum. It's the same co-starters curriculum, but it's honestly, it's broken down differently. And so it takes what's typically a 3-hour class and breaks it into 1-hour chunks and take students through the whole entrepreneurial process. So what we will do is what we've done when we work with teens and entrepreneurship is we don't just teach them how to start a business, but we also focus on like product development. So when we're talking about customers and identifying your customer, we're also talking about product and developing a product that matches what a customer wants, or making sure that the product that you have or the solution that you are creating has a market somewhere. So we really put those product development and making skills together with the business side of things. And so the co-starters curriculum will just allow us to continue teaching all of those business aspects. They get into, like I said, we talked about customer, they get into budgets and break-even points and ROIs and marketing, branding, all of that type of thing. And so what they'll do is they'll actually create a product line and launch it virtually. And we'll use the co-starters curriculum as the business portion of it. And then we'll also spend time hands-on doing the actual making and product development. So for that class in the spring, myself and Joanne Zahal from Blackwater Branding are going to be leading that one. And so we'll be focusing on graphic design, but then also taking those virtual digital designs and putting them on, screen printing them on t-shirts or embroidering them on hats. Or, I mean, that's where the students come in and, they bring their own creativity and we take it from there. And then we'll have them put that on an e-commerce platform to sell online. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. That's really good. One further final or follow-up question is, when you have students come to the Makerspace, this came up because we were talking about other organizations, do they find their own transportation there, or is that, because I know it's kind of, we're talking small groups and we're not really talking every night of the week, we're just doing like once a week. So is that kind of how it works out?
That's a great question. So usually, yes. We do have a program or a partnership with the Empowerment Academy, which is the alternative high school within LCS. They are 5 blocks from here. And so we get them during the school day, typically during non-COVID time. and they can come, and that way, as long as they get to school, they also get to vector space. We do that once a week in a larger chunk instead of doing it twice a week, since we're sort of moving them during the school day. LCS has let us know that because students are hybrid and they only have 2 days in school, they cannot spend one of them here, unfortunately. But I understand. So we will not be able to do that program during school next semester. But we are still hoping to get some of those students and do the same the entrepreneurship program is the one we're really targeting after school. So with that, we're working with the city, and I mean, we've talked about bringing in different partners like the Humankind and their Ways to Work, something like that. People that do transportation. What we've learned is that we don't do transportation, and we can't take that on. We've tried, and it's a struggle, but we will find accommodations if kids need transportation. So we do have a couple partners that we pull in. Jody's here with the Education Foundation, and she and the Future Focus Foundation fund scholarships for students. So there is a registration fee for most of our classes that students pay directly, but no student is ever turned away because they can't afford it. So we have built partnerships over the years, or honestly, we'll just take it from our budget if we can't find someone to fund it, so that students can, we can waive registration fees, and then transportation and things like that has been a sort of meet you where you are. And it tends to be, again, because we're working with smaller groups, it tends to be a case-by-case basis. So I think that was a complicated maybe answer.
No, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for your interest and support. We look forward to working with WIN.
Great. Us too.
Any other questions, concerns, ideas? We've got some members in here. How are you feeling, members? Do you have anything? Did I forget anything?
Well, you had talked about volunteer opportunities, or what's in the plans for us to do to improve the space?
Yeah, great question. So there is always work to be done to improve and change the space. When I posted the after picture of the wood shop, and I was like, well, it's not done. Like, no space here is ever done. So Ken, you're right that there's always improvements that can be made. Yeah, it's a good question, and it's sort of tricky. To gather large groups of members together is not, that's not safe, and it's not what we're doing right now. So I've tried a couple things where I've put, like, I know some of our members are always so willing to help, and so I've put like a list of, like, here's some things that need to get done if you want to grab one. And I know I've seen you do that, Ken, just on a physical whiteboard at the space. But other than that, I don't have a lot of, I mean, we could do like a volunteer weekend where folks come in shifts, maybe, things like that. Do you have ideas or thoughts? Or you just want to volunteer, and in which case I will find a way.
Yeah, nothing specific, just curious.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, typically for non-members, we will have at least a quarterly like cleanup day where everyone just comes and there's pizza or donuts or whatever, and we just spend time giving the space a little TLC, whether it's cleaning or building storage or rearranging spaces. And that's not something that we've been able to do this year. The staff and member volunteers were able to spend some time while things were slower in the spring and the summer to do some of that work. So that's been sort of a trade-off of our time. But now that we're busy with programming again, there's less time for that, at least from a staff perspective. But yeah, Ken, I will think about some ways to make that happen.
Yeah,
for members.
I would say that whenever I come into the space, I do notice things that have been done, improvements and everything. So that's great to see.
Thank you. Adam mentioned that we have an educational case statement. That's true. Pam got the first digital version. She reached out and I was like, wait, I'm working on a thing. Let me finish it and I'll send it to you. So I realized that I didn't have like a packet of that really goes into our education philosophy and what we do and how we do and why we do it, because it's very intentional. So we did put together an educational case statement, which I have ready digitally, but not in print yet. So we'll get those from the printer, I think, next week. And that's something that will be here at the space if you are a member and you want to grab one because you have, you know, someone that either you have a teen at home and you're interested, or you have, you know, a partner that you want to see that. And then partners, I can get those to you too as well. So those of you, probably all of you, will see our sort of year-end ask letter coming out next week. We have Giving Tuesday coming up, which is December 2nd this year, I believe. And so if you are able and inclined to support Vectorspace, like I said, we are going to be, we're going to be fine, but we want to be more than fine. So we could definitely use your support to continue with these educational programs and making members, thanks Peter, Giving Tuesday is the 1st, December 1st. You can give anytime though, don't worry. What was I saying? Yes, but we want to keep offering tools for members to innovate and start new businesses and make things that they just can't make at home or in another space, and be exposed to other people making things that are different and from a different field, and then also getting teens in here. And one of the like beautiful things that I didn't even talk about is the way when we do teen education, they come in and they see members, adults, just in here making things, and for that to be just normalized as something that you do. You're fixing things, or you're inventing new things, or you're tweaking the way something works, or you're making something that's a gift and meaningful. And students notice that when they come in and they see someone working on something, sometimes they'll ask questions, and our members are usually really happy to share. And then they'll come in the next week and be like, hey, where's so-and-so with that project? Did they finish it? Where is it? I want to see it. And, you know, they notice. And that's another reason that we are really adamant about getting members and students in the space in a safe way and continuing to offer these services. So thank you, members, for being such an inspiration. Does anyone else have questions for me? You can always email me with anything if you think of anything later, but that is what Vectorspace is up to. I appreciate all of you guys and the way you contribute, whether physically in the space or as partners or as advocates. You guys are definitely, you know, help us to be able to do this, and I appreciate you. All right, if y'all don't have any other questions, I will wrap this up. You guys enjoy your sunny Friday.
Thank you, Elise.
Thank you, Amitai. Good luck. Let me know if you have questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.